Stories TV.
Good evening, viewers. You're most welcome to yet another episode of Soaring with Eagles. We are live on all manifest platforms. My name is Pastor Joy Kihuguru, and my guest today is an amazing lady. She's a mother, she's a wife, an architect, and a minister in the gospel. Mrs. Catherine Muyinda, you're most welcome to this show.
Thank you, Pastor Joy.
Yes.
Yes, it's an honor to be here.
Amen.
Yes.
So, Mrs. Muyinda, of course, we are going to start by talking about your career journey.
Yes, please.
Can we start from around S5?
Well, in my senior 5, should I start with the school? I was in Nabisunsa Girls School.
Okay.
Shout out to Hajat Aisha Nalubega, who was a HM at that time. So in my senior 5, I was admitted to do arts. And I told my father when I went back home with my admission form, and I told him, Daddy, I can't handle arts. I want to do sciences. And Daddy comes with me to school and tells the director of studies and says, my girl can do arts. Can she do sciences?
Right.
And the director of studies said, but when we see the results of her senior 4, the arts would perform better than the sciences. And my father said, no, I know my daughter can handle the sciences. And I remember my dad saying, no, she's a brilliant girl, she'll handle. And so the course was changed, thankfully, because my father appeared, and I was given PEM, French, in my senior 5. And from that time I did it. I remembered the doses words, frying pan to the fire, and I told myself I will not be the one that will exhibit the fire, you know, in terms of the results. And by the grace of God, I performed as a best student right up to when I finished senior 6.
Wow.
When you go to Nabisunsa Girls School, if they kept those records, I appear as one of their best science students.
Yes. I think when we were talking, you told me that you came from a privileged family.
Yes,
Can
I
you
would
tell
say
us
that.
a bit about that?
Well, my father was the chief accountant, Coffee Marketing Board. At that time, it was it was one of those good parastatals. We grew up around Kololo, we went to Buganda Road, went to Nakasero. So my background was privileged. Yes, I would say that he gave us the foundation. Although he did not have it himself. He started from scratch to build what he showed us.
So he really wanted his children to have what he wasn't able to have.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And he pushed for excellence. He pushed you to go the limits because he had pushed himself beyond his siblings. This is a man who used to ride kilometers to go to school. The stories, you know, he would tell you, my mother sold cotton to take me to school. She sold local brew. So it wasn't a privileged background that he came from, but he managed to, you know, come out and be on top of his class. He was a brilliant man as well.
Wow.
Yes, please.
So now you get to S6, you're one of the best students.
Yes.
So what did you decide to pursue after that?
I of course I pursued architecture. At that time it was a very, I would call it an ambiguous course, because by then BCom, BSTAT were the in courses. And I remember on parade, Hajat Aisha, this one I told her when I met her some time back, I think this year or last year, and she was on parade and she said, why don't you go to these offices of the architects? You can spend 6 months looking for your plan. And we were on parade and I was like, architects? I had never heard about it. And so I told myself, these are new waters. And you know, because of the background of my father saying, go for this, I decided to go for architecture. So when my dad got to know I was going to do architecture, he said, I'm going to help you get a mentor because you need the maths, you need the physics. so to help you be able to qualify. So my career and journey of getting into architecture he has a part to play. My dad
has
a very big part to play.
Is he still alive?
No, he
I'm
unfortunately passed on. Yes.
Was that when you were now in the university?
I had finished campus.
Oh, you had finished campus.
Yes, yes.
So tell us about your journey on campus.
Well, when you come from school and you're the best and you find the creme de la creme in your class, you're dealing with the best brains, because architecture needs the best students.
How many years is architecture?
5 years.
Like medicine?
Yes, we are doctors of buildings. So the medicine is doctors of people, and we are doctors of building. You know, you hear of collapsed buildings and all. When you do the checks in those buildings, you find that there was no professional. So we are trained to handle anything to do with construction, anything to do with buildings. Yes. So my journey, I get into the course and I'm overwhelmed. The first week, actually, when we were being told you're here for a minimum of 5 years to 10 years, and they said we still have people here we've kept for 10 years. And I'm thinking, oh wow, 10? For what? Every day we had an assignment. Now you come from a whole long vacation, you're in this mood of, I'm a fresher, let me first enjoy life at campus. And then you're alarmed with coursework from day one, and you have to do, the work is needed next week. So you have an assignment every day, which is needed next week. So it was very overwhelming. We got into what I would call a culture shock.
Okay.
To start, and no one prepares you for this.
Yes.
Yes.
So now tell me about that journey of the 5 years on campus.
Of course, I told you I did PEM French.
Yes, PEM French.
Yes. In my HSC, that is Senior 5, Senior 6, I hadn't done technical drawing or art. I really hadn't had the passion for those things. The figures, maths was my thing. And I get into architecture and I find art, technical drawing really key. And then you have these assignments every week. And we were doing math, we were doing, the technical drawing is what we use, is the knowledge you use to do the perspectives, the drawings, the actual drawing of a building. And then the art they gave us, they would bring live models of a person standing in and they tell you, sketch. And I had never gotten sketches and all that. That was not my world. So I found a challenge that I had to learn things while I was in the course. So it took me a long time to kind of adjust. But my Senior 6, Senior 5 were formative years in the gospel, because I became very serious in the Lord while at Nabi. So someone says, a Muslim school? Yes, they used to allow us to go for fellowship. And I had become stronger in the Lord. So I knew there was a place that I needed to trust God and ask for wisdom to be able to understand the art and the technical drawing. So I began to get children or people who are brilliant in this area, and I would ask them for extra help, and then I got to learn how to sketch. Because I never failed art. I never failed those units. Yes, amazingly.
Wow.
Yes.
So after university?
Well, after university, when I graduated, I immediately got into a farm. Our course, you have to do industry training. The semester system runs up to first and second semester, and then there is a recess. I think they're 3 months. That recess period is supposed to be attached to an office.
Is that like being an intern?
Yes, internship.
Yes.
So, and then they give you marks for it. So, of course, you would look out for those officers. And you had to be friends with the older years, because when they would get into the field, then they would be your referrals. So I got a friend of mine who had just graduated fresh, and I asked him, where can I work? He said, you come and talk to my boss and you get a place. So I was co-opted in the office to do internship not internship. I had done internship in my 3rd or 4th year in that office. So when I finished, I just went back to the architect. So
you didn't even sit for any. You went straight into that.
Direct.
So why do you think they allowed you in straight away? Was it because they saw that you were a good worker?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because architecture also trains a lot of other things. It's not just about how competent and all. You know, having an assignment every day of the week and you have to give it next week. There's an accountability part of it. There is efficiency. There is quite a lot of things. So you are trained in delivery. So when you are in an office, service delivery is something that becomes critical because a client will come and say, I want this project done in a month. And you must find a way to have it delivered in a month.
Right.
So if you're in your training, you're very slacky, then they can't give you the job.
That's true.
So this is where they would see us. I never applied for jobs. I was referred for all the jobs I did because I even got my papers, I think 5 years later, when I wanted to sit my professional exams. So they just saw this girl. I was very proactive. Of course, architecture teaches you to be very proactive as well. You have to defend your thesis. You have to defend your projects. You have to defend your ideas because it's a perception of things. It's just like you have your notes written down in your books and you have to read and then they mark. This is perception. You put up something, it's beautiful, they give you the marks for it. And that was the core course.
Okay.
Yes.
So how long were you in this job, the first job?
I think I took a year. It was a year. I took a year there because it wasn't giving me what I needed to become a registered architect. So I looked for an office. Actually prayed to God for an office. And before I joined that office, a friend of mine dreamt, telling me, I saw you working in a very prominent office. And the way it occurred also, you know, Apostle talks about synchronicities of the Spirit. I was walking along Garden City and there was a building opposite and I looked at the building and I said, wow, I want to work in this office. Whoever did this building, I want to be part of this office. I get to in the office and I realized the building I'd seen on the road was done by these guys because there was no signpost. I'd been complete at that time. And that friend of mine had been my classmate dreaming. And she's like, I saw you working in an office. So I get the job. God had actually directed me to go and work there.
Okay. So how long were you there?
I was there for 4 years, yes. 4 years.
You were there for 4 years?
Yes.
So when did you start your own company?
After I left that office, because the training of an architect, you handle a lot of things. So once you have picked from an office certain aspects, so that aspect taught me quite a lot. Actually, I am what I am because primarily that man of God, he was a believer, put his time in us. It's called Architect Stephen Wanyanga. I don't know if you'll see this show. But I went to another farm where I worked 3 years, but then they were mostly handling government projects and bidding. So I learned a lot from there.
Right.
So this encompasses the whole year before you sit your professional exam. So I served those men that I worked with 8 years of my professional life.
Yes.
And then started 2015.
You started your own company.
Yes, with friends.
So what made you decide to start your own company?
Well, quite a bit of story there. But in my professional life, I've had friends, very spiritual friends, whether at campus or working. And I had this particular friend whom we used to pray with occasionally. So he tells me, but I don't see you working for these men forever. And I'm thinking, no, the comfort of working for someone, you have salary delivered, you don't think about rent. So he says, you're going to start your own company. And I'm thinking, no. I refused to accept. And then years later, I think 2 or 3 years later, my husband was praying with friends of his, and they tell him, by the way, what is your wife still doing at that job? When they had never discussed anything to do with my profession, and they told him the same words another friend of mine had told me 3 years prior. These are people in totally different locations. And so I looked at myself and said, I think God is saying something. Let me let me listen. So this is us going to start the company because there was a direction that God gave. And 9 years down the road, here we are. So
you're 5 people?
Yes.
Are they all architects?
No.
Okay.
They are engineers and there's a quantity surveyor.
Okay.
So that we can be able to do what we call the consultancy work. Yes, architecture, engineering, quantity surveying, land surveying. Yes.
So you've been in this company for 5 years now? 9?
Yes.
Wow.
2015.
Oh, 9 whole years.
Yes.
And what is it like?
Well, architecture is mostly, or was mostly, male dominated. You had to fight for your space as a woman to be heard. I'll be on sites. Actually, even now, I be on site when I'm almost the only woman. And you're dealing with a contractor who's your father's age and the client your father's age. And you are the project manager supposed to deliver hard decisions, the stop works, make your voice be heard. The thing is, when you're good at what you do, even the people who think they should be disrespecting you will end up respecting you. That's something my second boss taught me, because he was very good with site and all. So he would get on site and man the site, and you know, we were learning by observing. So that I picked from him. So when you're on site, when you decide to put your foot down, that's it. And so the field has had its ups and downs. It has had, you know, when you're going to be employed, they think you're a woman. Really, will she handle?
Yes.
But I've also, on the flip side, got clients who call in and get through the registrar, because I'm a registered architect, and they say, we're looking for a female architect, and your name came up. And they're coming from abroad, you've never met them, and they said, we're going to give you this job for you to do, because we trust a woman more than we trust a man.
Yes.
So the Lord has been good.
The Lord has been faithful.
Yes.
You mentioned something to me about, because for those who are watching and may want to start their own companies, you mentioned to me something about how faithful you are. Yes. Can you say something?
Every man that I served, they were not, apart from the second man who was born again, they were all not born again. But I had made up my mind not to steal a client while I was still on duty. You know, you'd get people to approach you because you're still new, you're still younger, and the fees will be low. And they say, why don't you come and do us? Now, they've sent you to go to the site on behalf of your boss. And you've picked the contacts of these guys. But I made up my mind not to steal a client from any of the offices that I worked for. The first man that I worked for, the first architect, he sat me down and said, it's a powerful lesson he told me. He said, Catherine, in this life, never quarrel with an architect. You find yourself when you need them, or vice versa. And I found myself in situations where one time I am on a panel to evaluate, or there is on the other side, there's an architect on the panel to evaluate our company for a job, for example. Yeah, my second boss, we ended up serving on a council, the Uganda Society of Architects. He was our vice president. So I was thinking, if I had been funny, how would the relationship be?
If you had broken bridges.
Yes. So until when I left, they don't have a record of me having taken any. And the Bible talks of faithfulness. When we are working, we don't work for men, we work for God. God has given me faithful workers. For the 9 years that we have had, I have workers that have been with me for 5. We have clients that have been with us for the time we started, you know, because I sowed the seed.
You sowed the right seeds.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So it's a message to the younger people, because we also brought in younger people who feel they should make that catch or that kill quickly, and it destroys their destiny. So you always ending up telling them, why don't you understand that this is a principle? It's a principle whether you're born again or not. You see, I was telling you, the Muslims have a principle of zakat. I was in a Muslim school. It's a principle of giving to the poor. Yeah, who he gives to the poor lends to the Lord. And you find them wealthy. They're blessed because it's a principle. They do, it's part of their giving. So a principle in the Bible is a principle whether you're born again or not. If you're faithful in another man's work, God will trust you with yours.
Wow.
It's a principle.
It's a principle.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have not had those scenarios of people stealing clients and all, no. I knew I sowed the seed.
Right.
Yes.
So Mrs. Muyinda, now we've talked about your career journey. We are going to delve now into your faith. We won't have very much time before we go into the break, but that's okay. We'll just continue from there.
Yes, please.
So you said that you got born again at the age of 8?
No, senior 2.
Oh, senior 2, sorry.
Yes. We would get born again and be born again.
Yes.
And every time they make an altar call when you're younger, you come. Every time an altar call, because you've not understood where you are. Yeah, but mostly I got serious with salvation, senior 2. There was,
Did you grow up in an Anglican or Catholic?
Anglican.
Anglican.
Anglican family, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got born again at the age at senior 2 in Nabisunsa.
Nabisunsa Girls.
Okay.
Yes.
That's strange. Was it
Scripture Union?
Scripture Union in Nabisunsa.
Used to come, yes.
Wow.
When I say a hello to hola or hello, whatever it is, to Hajat Aisha, I think she's the woman that shaped many of us. There are many Nabisunsa Girls products, but she was a key.
Right. So tell us that story. Tell us about your faith journey.
When I got saved in senior 2, of course, by then there was no discipleship class and all, and we didn't have follow-ups, and the way it is, I didn't really become very serious until when I got to my senior 5 and 6. And why? I saw these girls. There was one who led the Scripture Union. She would lead. She was a lawyer. She's now a lawyer. But at that time, she would go to class, lead the Scripture Union, and then come and be the best. They would read on parade. And I'm thinking,
she was doing very well in class.
Yes, she was among the best students because they would read us. Even me, I would appear. They would read us on parade.
Yes,
and so would appear with her. And I'm thinking, I used to think these guys were too much with God. There's a way they don't perform well. And so I began to be pulled curiously. What makes them this way? I mean, they're serving God, they are always there, they are leading, but they're also brilliant. So I began to observe their lives. So I began to have a very deep and close personal relationship with God in my senior 5, senior 6. Actually, what surprises me is every time I would be doing an exam, the Holy Spirit would tell me, open here and read. And I would get to the exam and the paper it's like I've set the paper. And it went through even up to when we did UNEB, the national exams. Amazing, I don't know, but yes, that is the journey of faith begins there.
Yes. So now after your faith journey in university, Makerere?
Well, university, of course, when you get to university, you'll be thinking, there is another side to life. Can we explore? But I found myself in a place where architecture course was was very emotionally involving. You hardly had time to do anything other thing apart from books. And plus there was a lot going on. Family-wise, I needed a place to anchor myself. And I remember having a friend of mine who introduced me to a church, very, very basic local church, Pentecostal, local. She said, your issues will be sorted in prayer. And I'm thinking, let's go. When I get into the church, I'm thinking, do these guys really pray? The dust is too much, what? Until when she had invited me for a prayer meeting. I saw guys praying from 6 p.m. till dawn. Non-stop. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have seen people pray, but what makes these people pray? What do they be praying about? And they were they were so spiritual and on fire. The church was in Kasuvi. They prayed that road. I saw those things, the developments that came. They prayed for all those things.
So you really believe their prayers changed?
They did. They did. Kasuvi was full of witches. They chased them out of they were very commanding in prayer. My goodness, those women, those men prayed. So I began to get serious because I needed an anchor emotionally. And the way I could handle the things that were happening was through prayer. Because even during the course, some of the challenges that I encountered, I would dream about them, God would show me, and somehow you didn't know how to address them. So I needed a place to learn from, to know how to address the things that were happening. And they proclaimed and said, you're going to finish your course, don't worry. In the place where it was difficult for me to even believe. But they said, don't worry, we'll even attend your graduation. And they did.
Wow.
Yes. And so I became very serious. And then when I left the church, I joined another church along Gaddafi Road, Redeemed of the Lord, where I joined the youth ministry. I was also part of the youth leadership. And because I had picked the art of praying and the spirit of prayer from the other place, prayer was an easy thing for me. And ministry became easy to do because, it was mentorship in a way, but I didn't know that it was mentorship. Just God drew me to these places to be able to serve. But in Redeemed is where now the ministry part of me was
began. Yes.
Yeah, because the leaders there would would inspire you, would help you along, would, work with you, would go for crusades, and then they say, come, Sister Kathy, you're going to lead us in this session. And they give you the pulpit. Yeah, so in those trenches, that's where we were trained.
That's where you were trained.
Yes.
So I think we're going to go into a break right now. So viewers, we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back from the break. You're watching Soaring with Eagles, live on Manifest platforms. Now, my guest today is Mrs. Catherine Muyinda, and she was telling us about her career journey, and now we were delving now into her faith journey. So, Mrs. Muyinda, before the break, you were telling us how you were in Redeemed of the Lord Church. So, yes. So how long were you in the Redeemed of the Lord Church?
Redeemed of the Lord, I think it took me 3 years. Could be 3.
Yes.
3 years. I can't count the time because there's quite a lot I learned from there.
Yes.
A very interesting place.
Very interesting.
Yes, that built me spiritually and gave us a platform to serve. We give glory to the man of God of that house, Pastor Robert Kasaija, who gave a platform to the youth. He was so energetic, so full of life. Anything that the youth brought, he would support. As long as he stood on the pulpit, said, support the youth, they're going for this crusade. They'll support the youth, they're going for this. It happened. And so we learned how to serve God. Yes. I learned how to serve God, majorly from that church.
So what happened after that?
Marriage.
Okay.
Yes.
So you got married very soon after Makere.
Yes. 2 years into the field, I was married.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. So do you want to first tell us about that story of how you met Pastor Sam?
Well,
Yes.
if you want,
Right.
Okay. Maybe for the younger generation, because people come to us and say, how do you know the man is right and all and all. Well, I would like to firstly say opportunity finds prepared men.
Opportunity finds prepared men.
I was plowing in my father's house, serving, and he was serving. So we're both on the youth committees of the different churches. Because he was the youth pastor at Full Gospel Church. Led a very vibrant youth ministry. To date, they still talk about it. And we were also on fire for God this side. And somehow our journey begins with a friend's wedding. That's where we met. And on the morning of us getting ready for the wedding, my friend, I've had friends, I told you, prophetic, very prophetic. She looks at me and she says, next year we are going to be having a wedding.
Were you intentional about the kind of friends that you had around you?
Yes, I was. Partly because from an early age, I had a love of God and a certain quality of friends that I needed. They had to be deeper in God than I was, to pull what was inside of me. I never liked these kwarakara friends who would not lead me spiritually to a certain place. So my journey, God brought those guys through campus years. So this was a friend of mine. I was escorting as a bridesmaid. I loved being on people's weddings. And God had told me to start in preparation for, to start participating in people's weddings. So here we are, we meet the church, Full Gospel. That's where the wedding was. And she was on the committee of the youth leadership. And so my husband sees me from there. And he says, I served him cake at the reception. And all those scenarios, God is saying, this is your wife, and he's thinking, I don't know this woman. I don't know who she is.
So the Lord told your husband at that wedding that is your wife.
But
he didn't know who you were?
Nothing. We had never been in each other's circles. But the word had gone out from this woman of God.
Yes.
She said, your wedding is coming after mine. And I was thinking, you're joking? She said, by the way, I'm serious. Now, Mugole in the bride wear, and she's busy speaking prophetically, and you're thinking, oh, wow, okay. But even when the word came, I was not really thinking she was serious. But on her wedding is where my husband saw me.
And then?
He went into prayer and asked God, who is this woman? And then I was scanned spiritually.
You were scanned spiritually?
By my husband, yes. He saw my family,
everything.
he saw my life, he saw everything about me. And God told him, this is why I was giving you this girl as your wife. So he comes and tells me this is happening in your family. He first told me my family issues. And then he said, God told me A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I'm thinking, wow. So I'm like...
How does he meet you?
Well, we were youth leaders. I'm the youth secretary this side. He has invited the youth from this church. We are going to full gospel. So I pick the phone. I'm like, hey, there's a letter here. You invited us for this program. We would like to confirm that we're going to participate. So he didn't even know my number. So he's like, that was the first time he picks my number.
Yes.
So he says, he calls me after the function. He says, I want to see you. I'm thinking, well, now for what? Of course, we used to meet youth leaders, so we are youth leaders, maybe things of ministry. Yes. And then he tells me things that were very personal. I'd never told them to anyone. And he told me ABCDE has been happening, and yeah, this is what God is saying.
But he didn't tell you he likes you. He first started by talking about...
he first talked about my family history, because in there were things that had been hindered. There were hindrances to the marriage. So God had told him, pray for this girl, and this is why, because she's going to be your wife. So he was also obeying an instruction. Yes. So
how long did it take from that time until the marriage?
We were married in 6 months.
Wow.
Yes.
6 months.
6 months. You know, Papa says when you meet your wife, you know. Usually men of God, they don't have that time of dating, what. 6 months we were married. He wanted marriage in 3 months. My family said, wait, we can't release this girl now. We will give you 6 months. Wait. Yes.
So how many years have you been married
18.
now? 18 years.
18.
Wow.
We are
Congratulations.
Still counting. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
So now, of course, when you got married, then I think you had to move to another church, to his church.
To full gospel,
To full gospel.
Yes.
So tell me about your journey there in full gospel.
Well, immediately we were married. He had been training to be a pastor. They have a Bible college. And one of the things they do as a precursor for you to be a pastor, you go through the Bible college.
So by the time you got married, he wasn't a pastor?
No.
Oh.
He wasn't. He was the youth pastor.
He was the youth pastor.
Yes. Okay. So immediately after marriage, the church, they would pay for you, and then you go to Bible college to be the pastor, because they needed him to take on the responsibility. In full gospel, if you're not married, they don't give you a church.
Oh.
Yeah, so they wouldn't give him the responsibility before marriage.
Yes.
Yeah. So he did his Bible college. Immediately he was done. Both his degree and masters we were asked to pastor another church 2 years into marriage.
Okay.
Yes.
So your husband did a degree and...
Yeah, he has a master's in theology.
Oh.
I think they call them what, reverends? Yeah. Very many books he used to read. I'd be thinking, I thought my course was a bit too tight. This one is about God. Oh, yes.
Okay, so then you start pastoring a church.
Yes.
At
Naguru Full Gospel.
Naguru Full Gospel.
Yes.
So then, how many years were you at Naguru Full Gospel?
We were there, I think, for 5 years. I also confused
Were
the
you also very involved in ministry there?
Yes, I would say yes, but involved because God asked me to. And then now I'd shifted positions as a pastor's wife.
Yes.
A senior pastor's wife. And as a pastor's wife, of course, you'll be asking yourself, what am I supposed to be doing? Because your mandate and calling is to support the man of God. I remember going to prayer and asking God, where do you want me to serve, really? And he told me choir. So I joined choir, very interesting choir.
Why?
Well, we were English speaking, the church was very traditional, we were teaching a lot of things, a lot of unlearning, and there was a lot of opposition that came with that. And so the education that we had, the degrees that we had ended up being thrown at us. They're too educated, they think they have too much English, they think they're going to influence this. But God gave us the people that that were able to serve with us. I would call that time that we went through that church as our wilderness experience.
Yes.
And we hear a man of God, apostle, talking about wilderness experiences. They are not pleasant, but they teach you a lot of things. So you'd be on the pulpit, you have to minister, and someone has spoken these heavy words, and you have to love them, to minister to them and minister to the congregation. So we learned the ministry part of us. There was another side of us that was developed from that place, to love, the language of love. You know, when God says God so loved the world, I mean, not everyone was good to be loved. He loved everyone the way they came. So we understood love, we understood a lot of things from the church before we now joined Phaneroo, before we left and joined Phaneroo.
So what made you join Phaneroo?
Long story.
We are ready to hear it.
We met Apostle Grace before Phaneroo started, and at that time church and ministry had become a hard place. We were asking questions and there were no answers. You know, coming from a background of fire, redeemed, we were on a fire for God. You know, we experienced miracles, signs, wonders, crusades, yeah? And then you find opposition within church. It had never occurred to the two of us. We were loved into ministry. Now here we're being pushed. And we got to meet Apostle at that time, that season when things were really, really tight and we needed God to give us answers. So he comes to minister at the church, and the way he did ministry revived the things we had seen before, you know, because people think as ministers of God, you know, they have it all kept together. They don't think men of God or women of God need a place where they are also revived or helped.
That's true.
So he came in, did a month with us.
Oh.
Yeah, he spent we used to have overnights every Friday. So he came in those overnights. And some of the sermons that he taught, Divine Windows, they were very difficult but very profound sermons were taught in that church. And we got a connection spiritually. I remember my husband telling me, I can't leave this. So they became very tight buddies, very tight friends. When Phaneroo starts, he follows. So you can imagine senior pastor of Kihuguru going to Phaneroo. Yes. Of course the oppositions and whatever came through, but we had understood that there was a message that this man had. And I remember Mzee Apostle standing and saying, something is about to happen. This is before Phaneroo. And he would tell us, wave to the cameras. And I'm thinking, there are no cameras here. We're in a very small church. So would wave. Yes. Because I was interpreting. He would wave. Let's wave to the cameras. Oh, you are
the one interpreting.
Yes, interpreting him. So he said, something big is coming. So Phaneroo starts in La Bonita. Of course, me, Pastor's wife, I'm thinking, another Exodus. No, I'm not ready for this. So eventually when God speaks to us to shift and move, we found the fun. I think I joined when they were at MTN Arena. Yes, that's when I finally told my husband, okay, let me just come and see what's happening. But the message had sunk in. Difficult. Yeah. The delivery was difficult. Sometimes you not understand what he's saying.
That's true. In the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yes.
But there was something that would be stirred in you too.
Right, because your spirit is connected.
Exactly. So, I mean, where does he get these mysteries? And for my husband, the thing that really pushed him to, say, what, I need this. There was a time where Apostle was saying that, these Bible colleges teach people how to bury the dead. But is that the mandate that we have? Aren't we called to raise the dead?
Yes.
And when you hear Mzee talking about, there was a guy who was arrested in a corner of the church. He had been doing witchcraft to the church. That's where we saw those things. There was a person who came in an ambulance who was on the brink of death. They prayed for that girl in the overnight, and we all saw the girl standing up and running. She had to just be stopped. When you see those things, you cannot remain the same. When you've been taught to bury the dead.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so we've had a longer relationship with Apostle than what Phaneroo is. So we've been with him older than the years of Phaneroo.
So of course I know that you're very involved in ministry in Phaneroo.
Yes.
Can you tell them the viewers a bit about that?
Well, I'm in the choir, but also we head the marriage department with my husband. So we do a lot of counseling marriage and other things, preparation for marriage. Yeah, that's where we are. But even for choir, before I joined Firo, I remember God gave me a dream, and I'm seeing a huge crowd before I actually saw it. And when I joined Firo, and I'm thinking, I dreamt myself singing in front of this crowd.
Yes.
So bits and bits can begin to come back, and the whole dream came back. Boom. He said, "This is why I needed you here." Amazing. We didn't ask to be positioned there. So my serving is in choir, as has been even in previous experiences, is because the Lord asked me to be a part of choir. So every time I'm not there, I feel there's a mandate or there is something I'm not doing. These are the things that I do are additionals. I know. But also when Apostle came to church, Naguru, then the first time he sees me, he had never seen the pastor's wife. He calls me and says, "There's something upon your life." He just called me. Now I was busy ushering, thinking he's calling a person behind me, and I'm thinking, oh, who is he calling? Because the power was just too much. I was like, let me usher and not fall under this power. So he calls me and says, "Come." And there were words he spoke. I still remember those words. So from that time, the things God has weaved to the person that I am today.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. So, Mrs. Muyinda, of course, we want to talk about your family. How many children do you have?
4 lovely children.
I'm sure you have also others that you take care of.
Yeah, very many. Yes, spiritual, yes.
Yes. So how are you able to juggle these different roles? You know?
Well,
the different facets of your life. You're a architect,
Honorary Secretary.
Talk about that.
I'm the Honorary Secretary of the Uganda Society of Architects. 6 years now I've been serving the profession.
Okay.
The first time 2 years a council member, the second term Honorary Secretary, and this term. So those are 6 years.
So you're a mother, you're a wife, you're in ministry.
Yes.
And your career, I think, takes a lot of your time.
It does.
So how are you able to balance these things, or is there supposed to be a balance?
Well, the balance is created by you, but God said there is a time for everything. And even God in creation, He made, let there be, and rested. So it's upon you to know how to balance your time.
Right.
But what I've found that has helped me is God has been good to us. I would like to talk of a dear woman who has been with us for the past 6 years. She's as old as second child, 16 years, I think. Yes. She has helped us with work at home. People ask me, how did you keep this girl home? And I'm thinking God spoke to her to come to us.
She has been with you for 16 years.
Yes. She came when the babies were young.
Because you've been in marriage for 18. So she came when you were just 2 years in marriage.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's when the time we were asked to pastor Naguru for Gospel Church is the time she appeared in our lives. And in her story, she says when she was coming, she saw the place where we're living. I mean, that's how God has been with us.
So she's born again, of course.
She is. So she's become a child or a daughter in the home.
A daughter in your home.
So she's been with us for all that time. So when I'm not here, she's helping that side. And I've trained her to do what I would be doing, cooking and all. But now even the kids they've grown, so they can help in the chores. But also in my work space, I have expanded myself in people. I train people, but also when I give you an assignment, we work along. So I'm able to have 5 different projects, for example, running at the same time, because there are people
you delegate
that have delegated to work. You can't do it all yourself and think you can handle. Yeah, even at the Secretariat, that's now Uganda Society of Architects, we have workers. All I do is to supervise them. But I also make sure each of these assignments is handled. So in my home, you'd find me checking for spoons if they are lost, or things that are not items. By the time they're telling me this list is not there, I've already done that check. Secretariat, I'm going through minutes and all organizing events. When you come to ministry life, if there's a rota, because we have a rota that is developed, you will find me in times of when I have to practice for a session. I do prior work. Now that comes from my training as an architect, because we do a lot of research, we do a lot. It has helped me feed into, yeah, so I'm able to plan. Yes, my time and be able to do all these things. But it also, I would say, it's a talent God gave me, that I am able to do these things, because not everyone can do them. Yes.
I must say that I do admire you very much, the way you dress.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
So now I want to talk about your children.
Yes.
I've noticed they're all in ministry.
Yeah.
How important is it for someone who's watching? I mean, what did you do? What made them end up in ministry, even at the young age they are at?
Well, I would say that as parents, the actions that we perform before our children speak volumes. You can't tell them to do ministry or pray or give or do whatever when you have not done the part. And so none of them were told, go to sing, go to do this, go to do this. But the different schools they've been to, they find themselves drawn to maybe lead a service, drawn to sing. And when the children's church started, then they are more serious, I would say, more than we are. The uniforms, I'm told the uniform schedule, when they tell them on Sunday, when they're going to lead the next Sunday, I make sure the uniform has to be ready. They will call me every day of the week, Mommy, have you tailored our uniforms? We are going to wear this color and these shoes. So that is something that God has helped us with, because we have lived our lives before them as ministers. What we are on the pulpit or is what they see at home.
Right.
So they have been drawn to love our God, which is different. Some ministers are different in their homes, and then when they come outside, it's another picture.
Yes, so the children are not interested
they can't
in
relate.
their God.
They cannot relate. Yes, they cannot.
Okay.
So as a parent, you're the first teacher to your child. If you want them into ministry, be the ministry. If you want them into singing, be the singing. Sometimes my girls are telling me, Mommy, I'm going with you in the morning. I'm thinking it's too early, especially on Sunday. I leave very early. They say, Mommy, we are coming. We will sit and wait. Say, 6 a.m., you'll be out of the house? Yes, Mommy, we are coming. So, and they sit and see how we're doing the rehearsal on stage and all throughout the service.
Wow. So, of course, now we're going to go back into your career.
Yes.
There are people watching, young people watching that listen to your story and how the Lord has taken you through this journey, how you started as being employed and how you ended up in your company. Now there are those who feel like, I don't want to be employed. I want to come out of Makerere or whichever university and I want to start my own company. What lessons did you learn when you were still employed? And is it okay to be employed first and then start your own company? Or would you think people should just go and be self-employed straight away?
Wow, very good question. But let me answer it this way. The Apostle Paul, great Apostle Paul, needed the right hand of fellowship of the disciples, majorly Peter, who was left with the church. He had had all these visions, gone through a wilderness experience and all. He needed these guys to approve his works. In fact, there's somewhere where Apostle Peter is saying the works of Peter or Apostle Paul are too difficult. Now, listen to him, you see. That in itself was, yes, he had been accepted, but there was a mentorship because they give him people to move with. Yeah? Now, you cannot come and think you know it all, because the university days teaches you 20%. Most of what we learn in the field is what makes you. So a mentor is needed. You need to work somewhere. You need to be told, wake up early, be on time. If you're your own boss, there are things that principles you can't. You should experience the pressure. You should experience a delayed payment because you didn't deliver on your task. Those are things that help you, because right now where I am in self-employment, once you don't deliver on a task, you won't get paid. If you're nasty with clients, it's more of emotional intelligence than the brilliance in handling people. So I have clients I've been with for, I would say, all the journeys that I've had, because there is an extra we give them. If they want a project and they're calling at 9 p.m. frustrated, I'll listen to them and tell them, okay, let's see how to handle this in the morning, and we see how to tackle this issue. Kindly help us calm down. We are very sorry. I wouldn't be doing that because I'm at the top. But I learned that from my bosses. I would see how a hot client would come in. There was a time we had a client who came and sat at office the whole day. And they wanted their work. They didn't shift, you know. We had to do the work. Another one told us, come to my office. This is how I want my drawings. I mean, they knew what they wanted, and you had to give them that. So we sat in that office and delivered the product. You know, so all those things teach you. So you can't come out of campus and you think you're too fresh, you're too anointed, too knowledgeable to start your own company. There will be pitfalls and things that you learn, which are very, I don't know how I can put it, detrimental. Because sometimes you might want to pick up the pieces and it is that client or that person who should be a referee of many other, because like now for our jobs, the person you work for comes with the reference of 3 or 7 more. You hear someone will call you and say, you did so-and-so's work 8 years ago, I want you to do this. You see, it's a referral. The house is still standing, they've appreciated the work. Now, if you treated that one badly, the connections are lost.
Yes.
If you didn't know how to handle them. Oh, let's leave that. Let's go to taxes. Let's go to accounts.
I mean, when you're just fresh out of campus, how will you know how to handle these things?
Let's go for bidding of government jobs. Because we talk big, we're going to take over the world. Knowledge is needed. My people perish because of
lack of knowledge.
Yes, it is not about your brilliance and what. So a young person who is there, get someone who can mentor you. Don't be in the rush. I mean, that's what we found even with the young architects. When you try to tell them, then can you do this? If you try to push them the way we were pushed for delivery, then they get into mental health. They don't understand us. They don't. So we are wondering, are you a softer breed? Because the training you have is what we got. In fact, ours was harsher. If we tell your experiences, how come you're still here? And we even tell them you'll go to a site and you'll find a mad client. How are you going to handle them? Yet they're going to pay you. They have the money to pay you, but all they want is their delivery. Yeah, so get somewhere, be attached to somewhere, learn from that person before you start your thing. Give it time.
Yes.
Yes.
That's so important.
Very, very, very.
So, Mrs. Muyinda, we're coming to the end of the show.
Yes.
I would like you to look into the camera and give your last parting shots. Please tell them what you feel the Lord is leading you to tell them, whether it's about the career, whether to the young people, whether it's about ministry. Just speak to the viewers.
Well, I would like to say that in any part that you choose to stand in, whether it is ministry, whether it is marriage, whether it is parenting, whether it is career, choose to be the best of that self. I read a book by Ben Carson, Gifted Hands.
Yes, Gifted Hands, very nice.
So many principles that gentleman talks about, but one of them that caught my attention was the part of excellence. I mean, for him to have the history of having to first did the successful operation of the Siamese twins, for me spoke volumes from that book. And I picked things from his book. So whichever thing you do, choose to do it excellently. If you're a mother, play the part. If you're a wife, understand the script of what a wife is and play that part. If you are employed and you're supposed to be at your workplace 8 to 5, honor that time, because you're not working for that man, you're working for God. Be on time, 8 to 5. Make sure you fulfill your assignment. If you are in ministry, because in our ministry we do voluntary things, and if you're in ministry, still it is a ministry of the Lord. If you have chosen to be there, understand your part and make sure you do it diligently. We see Joseph, we see Daniel, Prophet Daniel. Those men he was, the young men, they were chosen because they carried a certain diligence, they carried a certain excellence. You can't fail on these and think you'll be successful in any, because you'll be slothful. The Bible talks about slothfulness. So a young man, a young woman that is there, whichever field, whichever option, whichever thing you have chosen to do, please be excellent, be diligent. I dress the way I dress because I love dressing excellently. That's who I am. I don't know how to dress kwara kwara. That's not part of me. Yeah. But also, the Bible talks of a time for everything. If you are, for example, in a career and you still haven't developed a certain part of you career-wise, don't jump. If you need mentorship, go for it. If you need training in certain aspects, go for it. Learn the discipline before you actually jump into, say, I'm managing an office. If you're going to get married, don't, you know, nowadays we hear people speaking on faith, many faith and faith. People go on Kwanjula and they're appearing alone. Trusted God for the money, and the money will appear along the way. And then they appear on the Kwanjula with no gifts. You know, and they call that foolishness. Eh? Count the cost. If you're going to get married and you are a man, what do you have that is going to maintain that woman? Because primarily your role is to lead, to look after. Yeah? But now we find young men mixing priorities because they think they're so good and they are running. The emotions are too, they are running ahead of their emotions to get married without understanding. Abraham, for example, sent his servant. The first thing they did was gifts. Honor the family before we take this girl. Have you done that? No, you don't even have an income. What are you doing to get married to that girl? You're dishonoring her a certain way. Okay, let's go to the side of women, the girls. Are you marriage material? Have you worked yourself in a place where when God, because God trusts us with these things, we are stewards. We are not just given these things for just fun. We are stewards. If he looks at you, are you a steward of that man he's going to entrust you with? Are you able to take care of those babies? I remember before I got married, I taught myself a lot of things because I come from a family where they were not. So I taught myself how if a baby needs diapers, washing. So opportunities, find prepared men, prepare yourself. God will always front you wherever that you need. He needs you. And you'll always, the opportunities will come and locate you. Yes.
Opportunities find prepared men.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mrs. Muyinda. We have learned a lot today. I personally have learned a lot, and I know the viewers have learned a lot. We thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
So viewers would like to thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, may the Lord bless you, expand your territories and borders, lay his hand upon you, and keep you far away from evil. Bye-bye.